everybody to the MEF Summit from the Future of Mobile. I am Dario Betti. I am the CEO of MEF, and I'm very glad to welcome you all here in partnership with Cinch, GMS, Lang Telecom, and Globe Teleservices, our members that made this possible. Usually, I wouldn't tell you what MEF is, but today might be one of those times when really quickly I'll tell you what this is all about. We are a global trade association. We talk about mobile and the future of mobile. But really, we are in the business of bringing people, passions, and ideas together. And people is what I'd like to stress today. It's great to see you all here together, face to face. And it's also good to see you safe here together. The world we live in is very different what has been for the last few years. But we live in the mobile ecosystem where, luckily, communication, sharing, understanding is possible thanks to what you all do. And the passions of those ideas really change the life of many of the people. So in terms of the passions, the ideas, I'd like to welcome today Andrew Badd, our chairman, to tell you more about it or what you're going to be listening next. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dario. And on behalf of the board of the Mobile Ecosystem Forum, let me offer you a warm welcome to this extraordinary event today. And let me also congratulate Dario and the team at the MEF for putting together this amazing event, which is massively oversubscribed and is a testament to the value and importance of what MEF does within this ecosystem and across a wide range of topics, only some of which we will be talking about today. The first of them is the huge success story of the mobile industry, of our industry of omnichannel communications. MEF has consolidated itself as the voice worldwide of the omnichannel communications industry, and you'll be hearing about that in a minute. Next, you'll be hearing about trust in mobile, cybersecurity, but not just cybersecurity. And then you'll have the chance, amongst other things, to hear the very latest developments in the path-breaking development of registries in which MEF has made such a difference to the safety of consumers worldwide. Thirdly, we will be talking about identity and authentication. I will immediately declare an interest. Lee Zucker and I will be bringing you some color, character, and conflict to keep you on the edge of your seats on this most important of topics. And finally, you'll be hearing about RCS. RCS, an area which requires all parts of the ecosystem to come together and collaborate. It's an area that MEF has played a fundamental role in, and today you'll be hearing from senior participants from all parts of that value chain. And finally, last but definitely not least, there will be the MEF elections. Some of us are waiting with bated breath for the results of the elections to the board. This has been one of the most hotly contested board elections in the 21 years of MEF. So I know you'll all be excited to hear who makes it and who doesn't. So let me hand over, thank you very much, to James.
And hello everybody, my name is James Williams. I'm the Director of Programs with MEF, and as part of my responsibilities, I manage the Future of Messaging program. Now, this is my first MWC, like so many of you sitting here in a number of years. It's been great meeting so many of you in person, and for a good number of you, it's the first time ever that I've actually met you in person. And certainly, with so many MEF members, I can assure you that yes, I do exist. I'm not just an avatar. I'm very, very real. That wasn't meant to be true, it's true, but there we are. Thank you, Virginie. Your time will come later. But no, it's great to be here. Now, our topic at the moment, as you saw up top there, first Andrew mentioned, is omnichannel and messaging. Messaging has developed so much. People forget about channels such as voice, which have been around for so long. And don't forget, video has been around for so long as well. But there's so much rich mobile content to be delivered. And we're going to be talking about that in my panel today, which I have the pleasure of moderating. Now, myself, it's a funny situation, I was actually employed by Andrew. I worked for M-Blocks, and of course Andrew is the chairman of MEF. I now found myself working for MEF, and M-Blocks is now part of Cinch, and it therefore gives me a great pleasure to welcome up John Campbell, who is the product director for rich messaging, very aptly, with Cinch, because Cinch bought M-Blocks. Great to have you. Thank you. And what's fantastic about this panel is you go to so many trade shows, so many events, and what's missing are the actual enterprises and, of course, the mobile operators. The mobile operators are really the route to the subscribers. So I'm very pleased to introduce a chap I've talked to quite a bit, but never actually met until today, Mr. Alexandre Cottero. And Alexandre is product manager with Bouygues Telecom in their value factory. So that name is a hint. Thank you. And at the end of the day, it's enterprises, businesses, organizations of every type, shape and size around the world that pay the wages and literally the bills of practically everyone in this room. And I'm pleased to introduce Mr. George Parker, a chap with a very British name, but he's not, he's Dutch. And he is the founder and CEO of Gomeep. George, thank you. So George lives in Barcelona but hails from the Netherlands. We'll be hearing more about that later. But first up, I'd like to introduce John Campbell, as I said, product director of Rich Messaging, hails from the UK, he's over in Seattle now, and he'll kick us off with a keynote. Thank you, John.
Thank you very much. Actually, Atlanta. You can tell by the, yes, it's okay. You can tell by the accent, I'm not an Atlanta native. So just quickly moving on. Like James said, most of you are here and like to hear customer stories. So I'll be quick, I promise. I wanted to talk about or set the brief in terms of the future of messaging, and I'm not going to do a sales pitch on Cinch. But this is one slide I do use myself with customers in terms of what do we do as Cinch and how do we help our customers. And we deliver meaningful conversations, meaningful messages. And what I would like to argue about the future of messaging is that this is not some lofty vision of things that we can aspire to in the future, but it's more about accelerating what we have now. And you'll hear some examples of customer use cases that are happening now in two-way conversational messaging. So there's some great stats up here, but we don't need these stats to confirm our beliefs and understandings in terms of customer experience and the investment. This is a very simple equation. You take the middle equation of when you prioritize customer experience, customer investment, you get brand loyalty, especially when you turn that bad experience into a great experience in terms of something that's gone wrong, but you're easy to communicate with. And then lastly, that usually results in a net positive revenue or profitability for your organization. So I'd just like to run through 4 simple steps that we talk to with our customers around omni-channel messaging. I want to put aside all the debates and politicking about which channel and why. The arguments and discussions we use with our customers is just embrace new messaging. I'm probably saying too much, but as Cinch, as the product owner for this area, over 80% of the customers that we see coming into Cinch, starting on new messaging channels, half of those have never ever used messaging in their communications customer experience. So it shows you the opportunity that's available to all of us. Second is, a little piece of me dies every time you talk to a brand on a channel and you get this kind of response that says, call our contact center or email us in. Don't be afraid of two-way conversations is what we tell our customers. And it doesn't have to be that hard. Bots have this stigma attached to it, but now with the informational two-way automation, I think most of us can understand how you can get access to the information really easily. A quick example is before I came here, I had some work being done in the backyard with a contractor. Believe it or not, most transactions in the US are still done by checks. I know it's really strange, but I'd run out of checks. So my contractor spoke to his bank, authenticated, had a quick chat session to get his routing number and account number, and sent it to me on WhatsApp. So a great example of where some chat automation wasn't any call center agent involved. It was simply direct with the bank in a chat session. Second is about personalization. I think most of us have been on the receiving end of a comms that you know has been blasted out to a million other people. What we tell our customers is it's easy to do that personalization. There's a bunch of egos in this room, right? And we all like to feel special and have some attention. And it's really easy for a brand just to simply address, put your name in there, put some context about my purchase history, and just use that in the conversation session to make it meaningful. And then lastly, from boring old text to rich media, there's probably a bunch of marketeers in this room that are much more experienced than I, but we all like to have a bit of pizzazz and sizzle in that message. So going from that bland, text-based 160 characters to a really interactive session to garner that engagement from your brand. Again, doesn't have to be complicated, just make a start. And then lastly, transform how you connect. Just talk to those people on the channels that they want to be spoken to. Again, let's not making a hard, fast decision about it has to be RCS or it has to be WhatsApp, Viber, or whatever it might be. Embrace those channels and understand those channels that your customers want to talk to you on. So lastly, it's go where your people are. So next, as I said, I was going to be very, very quick. I want to introduce Alexandre from Bouygues to talk to you through how Bouygues have used RCS. Alexandre.
Thank you, John. Nice to meet you all. Thanks for invitation, Mef. It's a real pleasure to talk about future of messaging today. I'm from Bouygues Telecom, a French carrier, and we're developing currently the RCS and all those evolution to the SMS products. Today, I wanted to introduce a quick story of the messaging and go back in the past and explain how the things evolved from the SMS to the rich business messaging. So everything started pretty much by the year 2000. There was not that many ways for a customer to hear about his favorite brands and discover who they were, what kind of products they were selling. They basically had to listen to the radio, watch the TV shows and see the spots, or even read the daily newspaper. And so there was plenty of space for a new channel to connect those two worlds of business and customer. That's exactly why we decided to work with the push SMS to create this link. So it first started as a channel made to complete what was done already on the TV, on the radio. And today, in 2021, 2022, sorry, we have a completely different channel. It's nowadays a complete standalone communication channel. We have more than 2.5 billion push SMS in France sent every year. And things are going really crazy around this. And it's now not only a one-way marketing and notification communication channel that we're working on, but something completely different. We understood that since the year 2000, the needs around communications has changed. Now the brands want to put the customer at the center of communication strategy. You can see it through their brand names, their logos, there's everything they're saying around how they want to get the customer closer to them, especially for Bouygues Telecom. We're trying to build human relationships, and this is really our motto. So for this, we have to understand how we can push messages that are more customized to what the customer wants and what you want to hear about. So you have different options. You have the first one using data, having more targeted campaigns and trying to customize as much as you can. But of course, there's no better way to understand what the customer wants than asking him. And that's exactly what we're working on. We're trying to bring the conversation wherever the customer is through either the SMS, so the evolution of what we're already doing on the one-way marketing solution, but also on the RCS. And this is exactly what I wanted to talk about today. There's a real evolution toward a more sophisticated, more technology-oriented way of thinking and way of sending messages to the customer. So here you see an example of an RCS campaign we did here at Bouygues Telecom. Basically, the idea was to offer special discounts to the customer that are taking new subscription, and it worked really well. The idea behind this is that the customer found out that Bouygues Telecom was getting closer, understood what he really wants, and finally we did really good transformations, and we had really good rates on all these campaign. what I wanted to say with RCS is that you're adding both the conversations, so everything is more customized, and also those new technologies like photos, videos, sharing GIFs, and having the same tone of voice as if you were talking to your family or friends. And this is exactly what we want to bring with RCS. So here you have a few stats. In France, we have around 60 campaigns already out today, and they were sent through our platforms from the platform of Cinch, and we really want to thank you for all the jobs you're doing here. And this is all based on conversation and chatbots. So I just put a figure about the reach, because it's sometimes frightening for a brand to go on RCS, because it's a new technology, so you have to make it available for all the customers before bringing the real flux. All of this and all these messaging subjects are really important for the carriers. As you see, there's a lot of SMS sent every year. There's a lot of RCS that are sent as well, and we're really investing on those new products. So what we are working on and what we developed those days with the other operators is creating a real link between the operators, so the MNOs, the MVNOs, the aggregators that are the ones who are selling to the brands our products, and the observers, so all the RCEP and the regulation from the government. So the operators built the AF2M, which is pretty much singular in the world. We're sitting at the table with our market, our product manager, and all the regulatory departments, so we built something good for the whole ecosystem. And this is what I wanted to show today, is that thanks to the AF2M, we're able to innovate and develop new products with all the carriers going in the same way and working together. That's really the key point today. And we really encourage you to do RCS. Is super great. Just try it. And I wanted to finish by introducing George, who's going to talk about what he's doing on rich business messaging through different campaigns he already launched.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. Very great to be here. My name is George, and I'm one of the founders of Gomeep. We're an electric mobility company, and we're based here in Barcelona. To start with, let me give you a little bit of background about what Gomeep is and what our story is. So we started the business in 2019 as the first electric kick scooter subscription here in Barcelona. So what that means that for a fixed amount a month, you receive your own electric scooter that comes with service, maintenance, insurance, all included in the subscription. So that means that if you have a flat tire, if anything breaks down, we'll come to your house and fix it. So we grew the business quite fast in 2019, and we're planning a big financing round in the start of 2020. But like many other businesses worldwide, we were affected quite heavily by COVID-19, and actually the most at the end of 2020. We saw a lot of our customers, long-term customers, leaving us, basically because, well, it was coming out that people weren't going back to the office anytime soon, and our product was focused on people commuting to and from the office. So at that time, we decided to extend our product range to electric bikes, and actually with a focus on the growing delivery market. So what we do is we help companies and individuals by providing built-for-purpose, reliable e-mobility assets for last-mile transportation, for last-mile delivery and transportation. So how does our service work? So essentially you sign up on our website. Once you've gone to our website and you've decided one of our different products, we will do the entire customer verification through WhatsApp, because for us, this is where the customer is. So we will verify documents and we will plan a delivery of the service. At the same time, if a customer needs a service of our product, we will plan everything through WhatsApp as well. So you might wonder, why is a flexible lease attractive for delivery drivers? So what we see is that on average, that these delivery drivers work around 6 months for companies like Glovo, Uber Eats, Deliveroo. For these guys, actually investing in an asset that costs 1,500 to 2,000 euros is quite a lot of money to have stock as working capital in an asset. At the same time, you might think, okay, you might be able to use your legs on a normal bicycle, that's the cheapest. Actually, that's not true, because working in a city like Barcelona that has a lot of hills, has a lot of sun, it's actually not sustainable working 8 hours a day, 5 days a week. And at the same time, what we also figured out is that if you switch from a normal bicycle to, let's say, electric mobility or even a moto, you actually have an increased earning potential. So now we work with a lot of delivery drivers. We have a B2C consumer segment, and we also work directly with B2B companies. So we manage the entire fleet of Getir, for example, in Barcelona. And since the start of our company, we've done over 1.5 million sustainable kilometers, which is the equivalent of avoiding 345 tons of CO2, or the equivalent of 1,000 oil barrels, where we're growing quite fast. We're expanding to multiple cities in Spain right now. And yeah, we're excited to be here and see what the future beholds for us. So,
George,
back to you.
Just pop this back down. George, sorry, yes, not. George, thank you very much indeed. Now, as you can see, there are 2 microphones for questions here, but what I will say is if you've got a question to ask, I'm sure your voices will carry. There is no need for you to walk up to the lectern and ask your question. If at the end of our sections you've got any questions to ask, please say something. If you've got a comment, please feel free also to stick your hand up, because I want to make this really, really interactive. This is about you, the audience, as well, learning from key stakeholders in the area of rich messaging. So let's get started on rich messaging. And let's start off, John, collaboration. So Cinch, large messaging companies such as yourselves, CPaaS providers, you work very, very closely, clearly, with mobile operators, and we have just one of them just happened to be sitting to your left.
Absolutely.
This element of collaboration, everything, how, I know what the answer is, but we have a bit more, how important is it really to be able to bring rich messaging solutions to enterprises such as George's?
I mean, it's absolute, right? We meet with the carriers around the world all the time. Whether it be the acceleration of RCS or any other channel in terms of innovative commercial models on SMS to encourage conversations, it's extremely important to collaborate with the carriers. I forget, we were talking before the session set up. It's phenomenal the amount of companies that have never embarked on messaging and are scared to embark on messaging. So to come up with new ideas and encourage those brands to come on board, if you like, it's important to work with the carriers, sometimes in joint pitches to those, might be a bank or whoever it might be, to encourage them to take that next step. So it's extremely important.
Thank you. So Alexandre, obviously you're with Bouygues Telecom, a large mobile operator in France. There are so many hundreds of mobile operators around the world who haven't, and many of them, a good number, haven't yet quite switched on, my perspective as well, and many people's in the industry's perspective, to this enterprise messaging opportunity. How has literally working with the likes of Cinch supercharged that for you?
Like developing a new technology is pretty hard because you have both the technical aspect where you have to make sure that all the devices are slowly like being onboarded on RCS and all that stuff. So I can understand that some carriers don't want to launch that kind of project because it takes a lot of time. When you have people in Cinch or all the other aggregators that are saying that the market has a real new need, then you have to understand that the market is evolving, and if you don't change the way you're working with them, then they're going to switch and work with someone else and then find an OTT and work with them because it's working pretty well. So you have to adapt and make your business evolve so you keep the business, and it's pretty huge. So you have to keep this in mind and yeah, go in it.
It's about that speed to market. So
Yeah.
partnerships like that bring you that speed to market. Because I think that
Exactly.
your very essence of being a mobile operator is providing every single person in this room with great connectivity globally. We can roam around the world. We have data connectivity, SMS, voice, and everything like that. And it may not necessarily be that your reason of being is to provide, for example, enterprises with great omni-channel solutions. So I think this partnership supercharge that. So I think we can see here collaboration is absolutely key for speed to market. Now, George, with your business, could you just you've given the basic history around there. Could you give us a little bit of an idea, just to frame it for the audience, of the demographics, the age of your customers?
So if you look at the demographic of our users, I think what's interesting about that is that we are mobility, and essentially mobility doesn't discriminate. Everybody has to go from one place to somewhere else. It's like public transportation. Everybody takes it. So what we've seen in our customer base is young people, old people, lawyers. We've had some people who've gone to prison. I mean, you can imagine every type of customer that is out there has been a user of Gomeep. And at the same time, we also, in the more delivery segment, we are also have a slightly different demographic as opposed to commuting.
Okay, great. So what we're doing here is we're framing we're framing the opportunity here on the client range. So we've got clients from all different ages and age groups. Now, when you started your business off, looking around, and yourself, it's safe to say you're a little bit younger than myself. That's not hard these days, but you're a little bit younger than myself. You and your business and your business partners, you are proponents of using WhatsApp Business Messenger. Did you at all ever consider starting off with the likes of SMS or email and moving into a richer environment? Or was it the case of, no, we're moving straight into the rich world?
No, I think for us it was very obvious to go straight into WhatsApp. I think one big benefit what WhatsApp had for us is that you are able to do it from your computer, and therefore you didn't have to have a phone personal to you. And for us, we found that WhatsApp was a great way to communicate to our customers because all of us are very familiar with it. It's a very easy way to send videos, to send voice messages, to send messages in general. So we started in general with just WhatsApp for Business, but soon as the business was growing, we actually had no idea when we started. We started looking into services that could help us expand our communication. And that's how we landed on Messenger People that helped us exactly with that.
Fantastic. Now, John, we've got WhatsApp, but ultimately here we've got WhatsApp, we've talked about RCS. Of course, there's so many other rich channels. You mentioned Viber, Rakuten Viber, so many, dozens and dozens, if not more, around the world. The rich messaging opportunity and all the companies you mentioned, again, indeed we were talking before about the fact that the majority of businesses around the world do not use messaging today. What is it that you think the likes of Cinch need to do to be able to move so many, quite literally, millions or tens of millions of businesses around the world, or organizations? Please let's not forget that the messaging opportunity is not just for enterprises, for profit businesses. So I think it's fair to say in the past couple of years, we've seen a massive growth in the B2G, the government type messaging. How do you and your company get it out there to all the companies that don't know anything about what Alexandre is an expert in, what George uses to great success in his business? How do you do that?
I think one of the things, people that have been to these events many times before, for me it's obvious and you become in a bit of a bubble. So I didn't present any of the stats that most of this audience know and love in terms of delivery rates, read rates, return on investment in all of these channels, because engagement is so much higher. So I didn't put that stuff up on the slides, but that's the stuff that we all the time talk to brands about. And the second part is just making it easier. I think there's a fear factor and a cost factor that a lot of CMOs, et cetera, that have been doing email for so many years are fearful of taking that leap because it opens the door. Like I said, there's this kind of, what do I do with this person that responded on SMS? Yeah. It's phenomenal amount of companies that still do one-way SMS, and you ask the question, so have you looked at the replies? What happens to the replies? What do you do with it? And so a lot of our discussion and journey from Cinch is to make it simple to say, well, let's have a look. Let's understand what your customers are saying to you and do something with it, build that relationship further, and build it and enhance that customer experience. So it's about making it simple and just reinforcing the value of those channels.
Fantastic. Alexandre, you as an operator, I always have said that operators own the relationship with the mobile subscriber. You are a very, very trusted type of brand. I think if we look around the world consistently across countries, you talk to the average person on the street, they will all know at least one mobile network operator. Now, you can't say that really about many other industries. So you've got that inherent trust element there. How do you as a mobile operator, do you see it as part of your responsibility as well somehow to be able to educate your consumers, i.e. the subscribers, about the benefits rich messaging can have for them? Or do you think actually that should be left up to the likes of Cinch?
Yeah,
it's a tough question, I know. Yeah.
Of course, we're trying to understand better how the customer is perceiving those new channels and how he feels the fact that he's receiving SMS from brands, RCS from brands, and it's quite intrusive. So you have to be super careful on the commercial pressure you're putting on your customer. It's about regulating prices, working on the fraud, and making sure that the smishing is decreasing. So that there's a lot of key stakes you have to take into account, a lot of issues, possible issues. So this is really important. So this is one role of the operator, and yeah, of course, the other one is to explain to your customer that are representing the whole mobile ecosystem, whether it's from Orange, SFR, or Bouygues Telecom, the whole ecosystem and the whole customers need to understand that we're watching what they receive, and we're not sending them like smishing and spam and fraud all day, and they can be sure that we're super careful about this, and we're explaining them as well how the business messaging is evolving, how RCS is going to change the way they're discussing with the brands, what are the chatbots, and all these need to be explained as much as possible so it doesn't affray too much the
and I think that's where organization it is the organization in France, the AF2M, really comes in.
Exactly.
Super important for the operators to be aligned with the strategy and ideas, at least. Okay.
To have only one voice as the whole ecosystem. It's really important.
Yeah, excellent. So it's all about collaboration. Now, George, a real question here. We talked about so many millions of businesses not using messaging. And you did. You and your co-founders, you set up a business from scratch. You had the idea, you came here, you saw the market opportunity, you filled the gap. How did you go about finding a company to provide this messaging? Because, again, the average person on the street, they wouldn't know that Cinch is one of the largest mobile messaging companies in the world. They wouldn't be able to reel off the names of other companies. How did you find Cinch Messenger people?
No, I think it's a very good question. I mean, when we started out, we had no idea that we even needed this service to start with, right? Because we started renting out scooters, and soon we figured out that a lot of people were talking to us, reaching out to us, and then actually in WhatsApp for Business, it was becoming overwhelming. And at the same time, so I mean, there are other customer service platforms out there, but we wanted to stay on WhatsApp. And we started looking around, we started talking to other founders of other businesses, and through that actually came into, at the time, Messenger people that could actually help us with our needs at the time. But I think speaking to other people, finding online, trying to figure out what you need, and we found it relatively fast.
It's great. It's often not so easy. So. John, from your perspective, your company like Cinch, you're a very large company, very global, you've got offices all around the world. How do you go about, because I appreciate you've got to tailor your solutions, your offerings to various local markets, everything like that. How do you go about getting your, I guess from an interesting for the audience perspective, getting your brand out there? Because ultimately you want to be a global company in all the countries around the world. How do you go about doing that to make sure that it's not just France, Spain, UK, USA that is aware of Cinch, all corners of the globe?
It's a difficult question. I don't know.
I know.
The brand police and marketing police are in the audience. See if I answer this question correct, and be good to hear if there's any other questions in the audience. I think Cinch, like many in the industry, are unknown to many. You know, we're behind the scenes. Someone lovingly described us and others as, you know, the wonderful plumbing in the industry that just makes magic happen. So it's very difficult to get brands to understand what we do and the value we provide. But I think once, like George went on that journey, and you understand you have a problem, once you tie down and nail that problem, there aren't that many large international companies that can do what we do to take you into a given market. So it's just about being omnipresent, coming to shows like this, demonstrating what we do online, making it easy to access, and very much just talking to large enterprise about what is the problem that they're trying to solve. Everything from ease of integration through to security compliance, through to high quality messaging, etc. You have to demonstrate all those in order to gain their trust before they will embark on messaging.
I think for me the key word there was used omni, and obviously the scope of our discussion is omni-channel. So Alexandre, out there's so much discussion about omni-channel, but how many companies out there can actually do omni-channel and aren't actually in fact multi-channel?
It's not that many actually, because every time I'm discussing with a brand, even if it's famous brand, when I'm talking about SMS, RCS, it seems like they discover a new channel as if it was like I was just explaining some brand new thing, and when I'm talking about Cinch, I'm talking about famous brand that everybody knows here, and like discovering everything, and they were like, okay, so I need to talk to someone from Cinch, so he's gonna do my campaign, and who's gonna give me like feedbacks on how is the things going and all that stuff. So there's not that many people that are doing like SMS, RCS, WhatsApp, Viber, using Messenger, all those things at the same time. So I would recommend like just try something first, test it, and then find an interest in this channel, and then switch to another, and then find some link to split the interest of your customer between Messenger and the other channel, and especially be where your customer is actually.
Exactly. Very, very on Cinch brand as well. Yeah, very good.
This one.
Yeah, well, sorry, yeah, as well. So, George, you're clearly, obviously looking to scale your business. I'm sure you've got eyes beyond just Barcelona. Now, you're using WhatsApp Messenger today, but surely not every person in Barcelona who uses your services uses WhatsApp, or do they?
I would say 99.99% of the people who use our service has WhatsApp. I think we've had one case that somebody did not have WhatsApp, and we did communication through email, but every other customer has WhatsApp.
So from your perspective, for your business, you don't see any reason to widen out that choice option yet?
I think there are other ways that maybe we are not seeing that customers might be trying to reach, but for now, WhatsApp helps us get where we need to be.
Fantastic.
And there could definitely be more in the future.
Yeah, great. Now, John, situations like this, you've got an organization that's using rich messaging, just one channel out there. There are various companies out there, and including, of course, Cinch. You can show, you haven't mentioned any of the stats for the conversion rates, or I'm sure Alexandre's got dozens in his mind as well, particularly on RCS and other channels. But how do you go about convincing companies that are quite happy using one channel? I could be just use, sorry, I shouldn't have hit that. I just get too emotional. But I could be quite happy using SMS. And when you come along and say, James, do you know what? We've got some rich messaging channels. You explain, we've got WhatsApp Business Messenger. Alexandre comes along and says, hey, James, we've got RCS. And I go, do you know what? I'm happy. My customers are happy. We're using SMS. How do you, other than just, or is it a case of really rolling out the stats? How do you get it across to me that, James, actually you're missing a trick. You're just using one channel. It may be really good, but for specific use cases, there's something else you should actually be using.
It very much depends on the brand and the situation. I mean, you take George's example, is somewhat demographic, but mostly geographic, right? So from Spain perspective, very WhatsApp dominant. You find the same with Brazil or India, very WhatsApp dominant, and there's an obvious channel on WhatsApp. But then when you, as an international organization, that one channel doesn't ring true. You can't take that same strategy into the UK or to Germany, France, etc. I mean, France has been a poster child for us in terms of RCS deployment. It's probably one of the biggest country cases for RCS everywhere. So when we talk to brands, especially at a CMO type level, what they're really interested in is they want the indicators, they want the stats. So when they send that communication, did I engage with it? Did I get it? Did I open it? Did I read it? And did I take an action? And then when you look at all these new channels, whether it's Instagram, Messenger, WhatsApp, whatever, there's that closed loop communication included in that two-way. So there's so much rich KPIs to give back to their CMO so that they can drive and pull the levers on what they do and do not invest in. So that's usually what we try with brands. And also, just try it. We'll help you on that journey. We make it easy. Just come along. We can adapt content if you like and try it on the new channels and see what happens. So yeah.
Fantastic. That's right. I'll obviously come back to you, Alexandre. I don't want to miss you out. But George, how easy was it to implement the solution for messy people?
Very easy. So I think after figuring out we wanted the service, it was a question of days before we were up and running, figured out that we had to get a new mobile number to do it, but it was easy.
Fantastic. So I think the important thing to note, what we're seeing here, it's not just about a company, a provider, having a great platform. It's not just about the technology, it's about the softer elements that go around that, the actual implementation of it, and just the practical assistance. Because I know we had a great omni-channel messaging event within MEF in London at the end of last year, and we wanted to showcase some richer messaging channels. So we ourselves, MEF, went through the onboarding process with a couple of those. And Carol is here, ably assisting and supporting these events. And it was Carol and myself actually had to go through that. And it wasn't easy ourselves. So it really wasn't easy to do it ourselves. So yeah, that assistance is very, very important.
Just one thing I want to add in terms of that brand and the CMOs, etc. There's a cost of acquisition to that customer base. And what the newer channels and the omni-channel approach really opens up new doors for customer acquisition and bringing down that customer acquisition cost. So brand discovery, whether it's a click to chat or a button in Instagram, QR code, whatever it might be, instead of having like a short 6-digit number like in the US, etc., that you have to memorize and find, there are so many more entry points for brands to have a discussion with our customers now. And that really resonates with brands.
Does it? Now, Alexandre, we can't forget SMS, good old text messaging around officially, dare I say, in the UK, officially December the 3rd, 1992. But with your knowledge, obviously your experience, not just from Bouygues and around about, you're working with the AF2M, talking to a lot of different people, are you seeing there's an easy upgrade path for enterprises or just moving people from SMS into richer messaging? Or do you see from your perspective, actually, do you know what, James? It's easier to take someone from zero straight into rich messaging.
I think that there's a real questions around it because most of the people think that RCS or rich messaging in general will be the evolution only of the SMS. So they want to switch their communication from the SMS to another one. But the channels are not working like this. It's completely different. You're discussing with your customer, you're trying to understand his needs, and on the other side, you're just like showing what you're selling and saying who you are. So it's not the same use case, so you can't just switch one use case from one channel to another. And so you have to think about, as you said, how expensive it is to acquire a new customer, and also to think about what kind of image you want to have towards your customer. Is it a brand that is just pushing something, or you want to involve your customer in your strategy, and it's something really different? And so it takes time, and it takes a lot of you have to make effort and test things before saying, okay, it's a good channel or not. And sometimes brands are forgetting this, that you have to test before like completely changing your strategy.
I think many of us in this room are old enough to remember SMS, and when MMS came along, and we were told MMS would replace SMS. And for a variety of reasons, there was no automatic message resize to start off with, the commercial model issue, all these different issues, the usability of it, those three things primarily, MMS did not replace SMS. And I think many of us have been in discussions around the industry with lots of people saying this channel will replace that channel. I think RCS is rather unfairly called SMS 2.0. It's not, it's a different beast. So it's not about one channel replacing another. It's about having so many different channels, using the right channel at the right time with the right target audience. Fantastic. George, back to you, unsurprisingly, your business, and WhatsApp Messenger. So WhatsApp, let's talk about, get down to brass tacks, and let's talk about the commercial model, the cost perspective from messaging. So WhatsApp is very conversational. There's this image from many people out there on the street, because they're using WhatsApp for free, that WhatsApp business messaging, oh, it's automatically going to be cheaper than any other channel, but it most necessarily isn't. For you, from your business, particularly when you're looking to scale it and you're a startup scaling, where does the cost side of things in the client acquisition using WhatsApp come up with you in importance?
I think if we look at the cost aspect for our messaging service, it's actually quite low compared to what we make from every customer every month. So up until now, and as we scale, I don't see WhatsApp being a big cost issue in the future. Maybe once we scale, that might change, but for now, it works.
I know it seemed to be a really basic question. You're probably sitting there, why did he ask me that question? But it actually is really, really important, because there are many, many businesses in this area of mobile messaging that come from the world of wholesale and are moving to enterprise. The two are very different. And then there are many businesses that move from voice, and their first step, their first foray into messaging is with SMS. And then they move beyond that. And I think it's really important to realize that the customer stickiness with enterprise messaging, your core business is your transportation, the transportation you're offering. You're not looking every 6 months, you're not a wholesaler looking to switch out your service or think of another channel to save €1 or €2. So as long as you're getting that great conversion ratio, you're getting that great support from your provider, you're in business. So that's stickiness.
Yeah, I think I'm not going to comment directly on the price structure, but
no.
Everyone does talk about this, this cannibalization of one channel to another, SMS is moving to WhatsApp or emails moving to SMS. And look, essentially we wouldn't have invested in voice and email and multi-channel if we didn't see growth. Yes, we see things moving across, but it's dependent on the use case and appropriateness of where the customer and how the customer wants to interact. You know, that one case that George had that didn't have WhatsApp, well, we have large customers where maybe 50% of the audience have WhatsApp and the rest are on SMS and email, and it's the same type of communication, but it's just in that omnipresent view, and then it's consolidated on the back end. So I think we need to stop having that fight about and debate on cannibalization across the different channels. It's just the appropriateness of the business and the business model.
I agree, and I think we're here talking about rich messaging, but you mentioned email. Cinch made a rather large investment in an email company, and I think that for me just shows how important that traditional channels are. So email still has its place. And,
100%.
And voice is
if you look at a given
massive
business model for a customer acquisition and the journey that customer might have with a bank, utility company, whatever, they might want to have billing notifications on SMS or WhatsApp, but they want their monthly statements, end of year statements on email in a more consolidated way, and an in-app chat session for support. So I think we do need to think of it in those terms as to what is the use case and most appropriate as to the type of information the customer wants to digest.
Fantastic, okay. Now, talk about collaboration. We have MEF, the Mobile Ecosystem Forum, today with 157 members. many mobile operators, many messaging companies, and an increasing number of enterprises, which is absolutely fantastic. What do we need to do as an industry? I'm going to ask, actually, this is relevant for all of you from a different standpoint, collaboration, to really, really ensure this message, that rich messaging, it's fab, ultimately at the end of the day, for bringing you great profit and margin. At the end of the day, delivering great customer experience. But this needs to go to absolutely everybody. What do all the stakeholders here, industry associations, mobile operators, CPaaS, messaging providers, and ultimately other enterprises to evangelize to others who may not have heard about it? How do we go about that? What have we done well? What have we done wrong? And it's a very open question. It's a huge question.
It's very, very open.
I know, sorry.
I don't have anything profound to say beyond we all recognize that the growth there is in the industry. We all seen the stats. I repeat what we said before. I'm so surprised the amount of discussions we have with brands that haven't even done SMS in any sort of form. It's the first time in my career of working for like Cinch at the time, I can talk to my kids about, well, we've probably touched almost every person on the planet in some perspective with an SMS. And they're kind of, oh, and it starts the wheel turning. I think once people start engaging in mobile messaging, it becomes a bit of a sickness as to, well, why can't this government entity just talk to me on SMS or WhatsApp? Or I need to get hold of this airline, for goodness sake, just send me an SMS or let me engage. So I think the more we evangelize and talk about it with brands, friends, community, I think it's something that has its own life and is growing so fast. I don't think particularly we need to invest much more apart from add some structure, add confidence, security, make sure we keep out the bad actors in the business.
Do you know what we actually haven't mentioned? My favorite topic is fraud and security in messaging. And we actually haven't even mentioned any of that until now. You touched upon it, but we're not going to it now anyway. So Alexandre, same to you. Got any comments?
I would say that, like, if you look at the time we're spending on our phone, it's completely normal that advertising and all those communication between brands and customers are going through messaging now, and that the business will be growing in the coming days, in the coming years, hopefully. So it's completely normal that you have new channels, you have more messages sent every day, and it's gonna grow, and like brands just need to start being part of it, and it's completely natural, I'd say. So,
Fantastic.
So just try it, and you won't be disappointed on that.
George, I was going to say, in your startup, you're going to be surrounded by loads of other people. You're going to know people thinking, do you know what, George has done this, I'll try this, or anything like that.
Yeah, so I think if you look at that, probably the most important thing is keep your current customers happy, right? Because they speak to people and recommend services, and that's probably the best and cheapest way to grow.
It's word of mouth. Because if you're happy, you know someone else who's got a business and they're happy with your services. That's a hugely, hugely powerful tool, and people forget that, and that's a really great point. Keep your existing customers happy. Now, I apologize, but how many minutes have we got left? Because I don't have the countdown clock on here. No more minutes. Have we finished? Finished. Time out, James, time out. But there we go. Anyway, I was going to stand up and say, thank you very much, audience, for being here and listening. I'd like to thank John Campbell from Cinch, and indeed thanks to Cinch for sponsoring this session. Alexandre Cottero from Bouygues Telecom. I'll be talking to you more, Alexandre, as well, about certain issues. And George, really, really nice having you with us. Fantastic having an enterprise with us. And great job with what you've done, and enjoy scaling your business. It's going to be great. Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone.